Welcome to Void Realities, a place where the noise of the day fades and the quiet of night begins to breathe. Here we wander slowly through the mysteries of the universe, not in hurried explanations, but in soft whispers, like a lullaby carried on starlight. Each story you hear is more than science. It is a gentle companion for your restless mind, a way to let curiosity and calm walk hand in hand. So let your thoughts loosen their grip, let your breathing find its rhythm, and allow yourself to drift into the space between wonder and sleep. The illusion of reality veils upon your eyes. The world feels solid, yet your senses weave only a tapestry of signals. Light dances on your retina, sound vibrates in your ear, touch hums through your skin. Your brain interprets these whispers as reality. But what if you never see the world as it truly is, only as your body allows? You close your eyes for a moment and the world fades, yet you know it has not disappeared. Open them again and the room gently reappears, as if painted freshly on an invisible canvas. The chair before you feels certain, the air around you feels steady, and the hum of life moves forward without question. But what you sense so clearly may not be what is truly there. Reality, as you experience it, is always filtered through veils, delicate curtains woven by your body and mind. The light that allows you to see has traveled across distances, bouncing from surfaces, absorbed and scattered, before finally touching the thin layer at the back of your eyes. Your retina does not see trees or faces or oceans. It receives only patterns of photons, tiny packets of light that carry no shape, no meaning. These photons strike specialized cells, cones, and rods, which transform the silent language of energy into electrical signals. From there, the messages travel inward, along optic nerves, and into your brain. You do not see with your eyes, you see with your mind. The image you hold of the world is not direct vision. It is interpretation, constructed carefully by billions of neurons that stitch together signals into a continuous picture. The brain fills in blind spots you are not aware of. It guesses at shadows, blends the edges, balances brightness so that the world feels smooth and whole. Without this constant correction, your perception would be fragmented, flickering, and incomplete. But because the stitching is seamless, you never notice the edits. What you call sight is already a translation, and every translation carries illusion. Sound follows a similar path. The air around you vibrates, invisible ripples moving outward like circles across a pond. These vibrations reach your eardrum, causing it to tremble tiny and precise. Inside, delicate bones amplify the trembling and pass it into the fluid-filled spirals of the inner ear. There, hair cells bend and sway, converting the motion of molecules into electrical whispers. Again, the brain takes these signals and weaves them into the familiar texture of sound, the softness of a voice, the depth of a drum, the distant call of wind. But the ear does not hear meaning, it hears pressure shifting back and forth, the song you love, the words you understand, the soothing rhythm of breath beside you in the night. These are not in the sound itself. They are born in the mind. Touch, too, is an illusion of certainty. You rest your hand on the surface of a table. It feels solid, firm, resistant. Yet on the smallest scale, your hand and the table never truly touch. The atoms in your skin are surrounded by electric fields, and the atoms of the table carry their own. What you feel as pressure is the repulsion between these invisible fields. It is as though you are always hovering, never truly connecting, always separated by a microscopic distance. The solidity you depend upon is not contact, but the illusion of contact and taste and smell. These are molecules drifting, attaching to receptors, sending signals that are transformed into flavor, into scent, into memory. The sweetness of fruit, the sharpness of salt, the warmth of cinnamon in tea, all of these are reconstructions, interpretations. The molecules themselves do not taste sweet or spicy. Your body assigns the sensations, your mind makes them real. Each sense is a translator, and each translation is partial. None give the world in its fullness. You do not see ultraviolet light, though bees do. You cannot hear the low rumbles that elephants feel, or the high frequencies that bats navigate by. You cannot sense magnetic fields as birds do, nor taste water as a frog can. What you call reality is the slice of existence your body allows you to perceive. It is as if you stand behind a narrow window, looking outward, convinced you see the whole landscape, when in truth vast portions remain hidden behind the frame. But this limitation is not a flaw. It is a design of survival. Your senses evolved to gather just enough of the world to keep you alive, to let you find food, to avoid danger, to connect with others. The illusions are efficient, they simplify complexity, they soften chaos, they make reality graspable. Imagine if you perceived every vibration, every particle, every wavelength. The flood would overwhelm you. Instead, your nervous system filters, edits, and shapes. It gives you a world you can hold in your hands, even if it is not the whole truth. Think of the rainbow. To you it spreads in bands of color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. It feels continuous, natural, unquestionable. Yet the rainbow is not divided. The light is a smooth spectrum of wavelengths flowing without separation. Your brain, guided by the cells in your eyes, imposes categories. It slices the spectrum into distinct colors so that you can name them, remember them, communicate them, but the division is yours. The rainbow itself knows nothing of red or green. It simply is. The veils your senses draw are not barriers meant to deceive you. They are guides, soft fabrics that give shape to the formless. They let you move through life with confidence. Still, once you recognize the veils, a question lingers. How much of what you experience is truly out there, and how much is within you? You live in a dance between the external and the internal. The world offers its signals and your body translates. You never step directly into reality itself. You always step into its rendering inside your mind. What you trust as certainty is often only the most consistent illusion. This awareness can feel unsettling, like the ground is less firm than you imagined, yet it can also feel liberating. To know that your perception is constructed means you can also learn to see its patterns, to sense its gaps, to appreciate the artistry of your own brain. You can marvel at how seamlessly it builds a world for you, a living dream that feels as solid as stone. And when you lie in stillness at night, with your eyes closed and the hum of perception dimmed, you may realize that reality is never only what is outside. It is also what rises within you. The memories, the associations, the gentle flow of thought that paints color onto silence and form onto darkness. As you drift into sleep, the veils shift again. The senses quiet, the brain no longer tied to external signals, and yet entire worlds arise inside dreams. Places, faces, sensations, all constructed without light or sound, without molecules or matter. Your dreaming mind reminds you of a truth. That reality has always been a creation, both waking and sleeping. And so you move gently into the next wondering. If your senses create this waking dream, what of the mind itself? If vision, hearing, touch, and taste are veils, then what of memory, expectation, and imagination? Perhaps the world you walk in is not merely filtered by your senses, but dreamt into coherence by your brain. The brain's dream of the world. Your mind does not record reality, it imagines it. Every moment is a reconstruction, stitched together from fragments. Memories bend, expectations color, and perception fills the gaps. You live inside a dream of your own nervous system. The world you move through feels continuous, seamless, and whole. You wake in the morning, open your eyes, and believe you are looking directly at reality. Yet what you experience is not a direct copy of the outside. It is a dream your brain is weaving in real time, a careful construction designed to feel stable, even as it constantly shifts. When light, sound, touch, and scent reach you, they arrive as fragments, incomplete signals scattered in space and time. Your brain must take these fragments and stitch them into a living tapestry. In the fraction of a second it takes for light to reach your eyes, the world has already changed. In the tiny delay before sound registers in your ears, the moment has already passed, and yet you do not feel these gaps. You feel the present as immediate, continuous, and smooth. Your brain fills the intervals, blends the edges, and creates the illusion of a solid now. Consider your blind spot, the place in each eye where the optic nerve leaves the retina. In this spot there are no light-sensitive cells at all. By all logic, there should be a dark hole in your vision. But you never see one. Why? Because your brain paints over it, filling the absence with background, with pattern, with color borrowed from the surroundings. The hole is hidden, the illusion perfected. The world feels whole, but only because your mind refuses to show you its gaps. This same filling happens everywhere. When you catch only a glimpse of a friend's face in a crowd, your brain completes the image instantly. When you hear half a sentence in a noisy room, your brain supplies the missing words. When you move your eyes rapidly from one place to another, your vision should blur into chaos, but your mind edits the frames, stitching them together so that the world feels stable. You do not live in raw reality. You live in your brain's interpretation, a dream that has been edited to remove the rough edges. This editing is not just visual. Memory, too, bends with the same logic. Each time you recall an event, you are not replaying a recording. You are reconstructing it, layering it with emotions, expectations, and the context of who you are now. Details fade or shift. New elements slip in unnoticed. A memory of a childhood day may borrow colors from later experiences or feelings you had long after the event. In this way, your past is not fixed. It is a dream you keep reimagining, a story you retell to yourself until it feels like truth. Even in the present, expectation shapes what you perceive. If you see a shadow moving in the corner, your brain guesses what it might be. A cat, a person, a trick of the wind. You do not wait for complete information. You predict. The brain is not only a receiver, it is a forecaster, constantly projecting what it expects the world to be. This prediction speeds your reactions, keeps you safe, allows you to navigate a complex reality. But it also colors everything. What you perceive is always a blend, part signal, part memory, part expectation. In this way, perception is not passive, it is active. The brain does not simply watch the world, it builds it. You are not merely looking, you are imagining. This becomes clear in illusions. Look at two lines of equal length, but with different arrows at the ends, and one will appear longer. Stare at a fixed image, and colors will seem to shift. Listen to a repeated word, and it will distort into nonsense. These illusions reveal the mechanics behind the dream, the shortcuts and assumptions that your brain uses to keep up with the flood of signals. Dreaming in sleep shows the same truth in sharper relief. At night, with no input from the outside, your brain creates entire landscapes. You walk streets that never existed, speak with people who are no longer alive, hear voices that come from nowhere. These dreams are convincing because they are made of the same materials as waking perception. Signals, memories, expectations, stitched together into a world that feels real. The only difference between waking and dreaming is the source of the signals. In wakefulness, they come from your senses. In sleep, they come from within. In both, your brain creates the story of reality. This realization can feel disorienting. If your brain is always dreaming the world, then what is reality itself? Does it exist as something independent, untouched, waiting behind the curtain? Or is the dream all you ever have? A shifting personal version of truth, built uniquely for you. And yet this very dream is what allows you to live. Without it, the world would be an endless flood of meaningless data. Your brain transforms that flood into trees, faces, voices, music, laughter, touch. The illusion is not deception. It is survival. It is beauty. It is life. Think of how a painter simplifies the world into brushstrokes. The details are never exact. The shadows are softened. The lines are implied. and yet the painting conveys the essence, the feeling, the presence of the subject. Your brain does the same for reality. It paints the world for you, with strokes of sensation, memory and expectation, creating a canvas that feels whole enough to trust. And as you rest now listening, you may notice that your brain continues this dream even in stillness. With eyes closed, you see shapes of imagination. With no sound, you recall voices from memory. With no touch, you can still feel the warmth of someone's hand if you bring the thought into being. The dream never ceases. It carries you always, shaping every breath, every step, every thought. And so, when you lie down to sleep, you are not entering something separate from reality. You are continuing the same process, letting the brain's dream unroll without the anchor of the senses. The dream deepens, becomes free, becomes untethered. In this way you live in a dream within a dream, waking and sleeping both. To see this does not strip the world of meaning, it deepens it. You realize that every moment is a creation, every sight and sound a masterpiece of your nervous system, and in recognizing this, you can soften into wonder, marveling at how your body, so fragile and finite, produces a world that feels endless and alive. The language of light and color. Color is not out there, it is born in your eyes. Wavelengths are invisible waves until your brain paints them with hues. The sky is blue, not because of truth, but because of scattering and perception. Reality glows differently for every creature who sees. Light feels like the most certain of things. Each morning you wake to its gentle arrival, filling the room, touching the floor, casting soft shadows across the walls. It seems so simple. The world is lit, and you see it. Yet light is not what it seems. The colors that feel so real, so undeniable, are not in the light itself. They are born inside you, painted by your eyes and your brain. Every beam of light is made of waves rippling through space at astonishing speeds. These waves differ not in color, but in wavelength. The distance from one crest to the next. Some are short and quick, others long and smooth. Yet none carry blue or red within them. They carry only energy, only vibration. When sunlight pours across the sky, it is a mixture of countless wavelengths, a stream of invisible possibilities. Your eyes, delicate and complex, catch this stream. Within them are specialized cells called cones, each tuned to a certain range of wavelengths. One type is most sensitive to short waves, another to medium, another to long. When light enters, different cones are triggered to different degrees, and from their combined signals, your brain constructs the sensation of color. It is not the light that is blue or green or violet. It is your mind that assigns those hues, translating vibration into vision. This is why the same wavelength of light can appear different in different contexts. When you see a leaf, your brain does not simply register wavelengths reflected from its surface. It considers the surrounding light, the shadows, your memory of what a leaf should look like. The perception of green is not only physics, it is interpretation. Consider the sky. At midday, it stretches blue across the dome of vision. Yet the air itself is colorless. The blueness comes from scattering. Molecules in the atmosphere scatter shorter wavelengths of light more than longer ones. The scattered light reaches your eyes from every direction, filling the sky with its soft hue. At sunset, when light travels through more air, the shorter wavelengths scatter away, leaving the reds and oranges to dominate. The colors of the sky shift not because the heavens change, but because your perspective changes, because of the distance the light must travel. What feels like the deep truth of blue sky or red sunset is the art of perception. Other creatures see differently. Bees see ultraviolet, a range beyond your eyes. To them, flowers glow with hidden patterns, landing guides etched in invisible ink. Birds, with 4 types of cones instead of 3, see colors beyond your imagination, a richness you cannot even conceive. Snakes sense infrared, detecting warmth rather than light. For them, the world glows not with color, but with heat. Each species lives in its own painted version of reality. each translation as valid as yours. This means that color is not a property of objects. It is an interaction, a meeting place between the world and your nervous system. A ripe strawberry is not inherently red. It reflects certain wavelengths more strongly than others, and your brain interprets those wavelengths as red. In darkness, the strawberry loses its redness because color cannot exist without light, without the dialogue between photons and perception. Think of illusions of color. Place a gray square on a white background, and it looks darker than the same gray square on black. The wavelengths are identical, but your brain interprets the context, painting the same patch differently depending on surroundings. Or consider the famous dress that appeared blue and black to some, white and gold to others. The light entering the eyes was the same, but the assumptions made by the brain about the lighting conditions changed the experience entirely. Two people looked at the same image and lived in two different realities. This shows that color is not fixed, not absolute. It is fluid, shifting, dependent upon both external signals and internal predictions. It is a conversation between light and the brain, not a truth etched into the fabric of the world. Even the idea of white light holds mystery. Sunlight, which feels so pure, is in fact a blend of all visible wavelengths together. Pass it through a prism, and it fans out into a spectrum. Each band emerges at a slightly different angle, revealing the rainbow hidden within the ordinary. White is not absence, but fullness, the sum of all colors, waiting to be revealed by separation. Black, by contrast, is not a color at all, but the absence of light, the silence where no wavelengths arrive. And yet, the absence can feel as real as presence. In the darkness of night, your eyes strain to catch fragments, your brain amplifies the faintest signals, and even imagined shapes become vivid. The language of light is not only in brightness, but in shadow, in the spaces where light does not reach. As you rest, you might think of how essential this fragile translation is to your sense of beauty. The colors of a sunset, the shifting shades of autumn leaves, the deep blue of the ocean. All of these are not properties of the world, but experiences in you. Without eyes, without a mind to perceive, there would be only wavelengths, silent and invisible. The beauty of color is the meeting point between physics and consciousness. And in this meeting your life unfolds. You choose food by its ripeness, guided by color. You interpret emotions on a face through the flush of skin. You navigate traffic by the glow of signals, red and green guiding your way. Entire systems of survival and meaning depend on your ability to interpret wavelengths as hues. What feels aesthetic is also functional. What feels decorative is also vital. Light is ancient. The photons that reach you now may have left the sun 8 minutes ago, or been born in the heart of a star millions of years distant. Some may have traveled across galaxies only to end their journey in the back of your eye, transformed instantly into the sensation of color. Each hue you see carries within it a history of cosmic travel. To look upon the world is to receive messages written long ago, interpreted in the present. And yet, even knowing this, you cannot see light as mere wavelength. You will always see it as blue sky, as red flower, as golden candle flame. The illusion is inseparable from your being. It is what makes the world livable, vibrant, and full of meaning. You might close your eyes now and picture a color, the deep green of a forest, the silver gray of clouds, the soft violet of twilight. Even without light, your brain can summon these hues, painting them from memory. This reveals the truth again. Color is not only outside, it is within you, stored in your nervous system, ready to be recalled, imagined, dreamt. And so, you live not in a world of wavelengths, but in a world of colors. Not in a universe of silent vibrations, but in one alive with painted light. Your reality is a canvas, and your mind the artist, translating invisible energy into visible wonder. Time as a gentle illusion. You feel time as a steady river, yet physics whispers otherwise. Seconds stretch and bend near speed and gravity. Your body holds circadian clocks that drift from cosmic rhythms. Time is not fixed. It is a story you keep telling yourself. Time feels like the most certain of companions. It ticks forward, moment by moment, marking the rhythm of your life. You wake, you eat, you work, you rest, and you sleep again. Seconds and minutes and hours seem as real as the sun and the moon. You measure birthdays, seasons, and years, weaving your memories along its line. Time feels like a river, flowing in one direction, steady and unchanging. And yet, when science listens closely, the river bends. Einstein revealed that time is not absolute. It does not pass the same for everyone, everywhere. Instead, time bends with gravity, stretches with motion, and flows differently depending on where you stand. To live is to feel time as constant, but to know it is to discover its quiet flexibility. Imagine two clocks. One rests on a mountain peak high above the earth, the other rests at sea level, closer to the planet's pull. According to general relativity, the clock on the mountain ticks slightly faster. Gravity is weaker there, space and time less curved. The clock near the ocean ticks more slowly, held tighter by the Earth's gravity. If you compared them after many years, you would see that their times no longer match. What you thought was universal is not. This is not only theory. Scientists have tested it with atomic clocks so precise they lose less than a second in millions of years. Place one on an airplane, and it returns ever so slightly out of sync with the one left on the ground. Time itself has stretched, altered by speed and height. The effect is small in daily life, but it is real, woven into the very fabric of the universe. Your own body is subject to these subtleties. When astronauts spend months orbiting the Earth, their time passes a fraction slower than yours. Upon return, they are younger by milliseconds compared to those who stayed. This effect is called time dilation, and though it feels invisible, it is measurable. Time, that most constant of things, is elastic. But even before relativity, time was already strange. Your body carries within it clocks of its own, cycles etched into your biology. The most familiar is the circadian rhythm, the roughly 24-hour cycle that guides sleep and wakefulness, hunger and alertness. This rhythm is tuned to the rising and setting of the sun, yet it drifts if left alone. In caves where daylight cannot reach, people's internal clocks often run long, stretching into 25 or even 26 hours. Your sense of a day is not bound tightly to the turning of the earth, but gently aligned by light. There are other rhythms as well. The beating of your heart sets a tempo of seconds. The cycles of hormones flow across days. The phases of the moon tug at ancient patterns of reproduction and rest. Women's bodies carry monthly cycles, while the seasons influence mood and energy. You are not only in time, time is in you, expressed through countless oscillations, like instruments in an orchestra. But your experience of time is not only biological, it is psychological. A moment of joy can pass in what feels like an instant, while a moment of pain can stretch endlessly. Childhood summers seem to last forever, while adult years slip away quickly. This distortion happens because your brain does not measure time directly. It relies on memory, on attention, on the density of experience. New and novel events create richer memories, making them feel longer in retrospect. Repetition feels shorter, slipping by unnoticed. Thus your sense of time is not a fixed clock, but a fluid story you retell to yourself. Consider how time changes in dreams. In a few minutes of REM sleep, you may live through entire days or long journeys. The dream is unbound by external clocks. Or consider meditation when the mind grows quiet and hours pass as if they were moments. The brain does not always hold to the clock's measure. Time is both internal and external, both physics and perception. This duality reveals something profound. Time is not one thing, it is layers of things. There is the time of the universe, curved and stretched by gravity and speed. There is the time of the body, shaped by rhythms and cycles. And there is the time of the mind, elastic and subjective, flowing faster or slower depending on your state. You live within all three at once, rarely aware of the difference. Science goes even deeper. At the level of quantum physics, the question of time becomes even more mysterious. The fundamental laws that govern particles often do not require a direction for time at all. They work the same forward and backward. The arrow of time. The reason you remember yesterday and not tomorrow seems to arise not from the laws themselves, but from entropy, the tendency of the universe to move from order to disorder. This increase of entropy gives time its arrow, pointing the future away from the past. Without entropy, time would lose its direction, and yet entropy is not a force you feel in daily life. What you feel is the steady rhythm of clocks, the march of aging, the unfolding of memory. These are your anchors, even if the deeper truth is less certain. The illusion of time's steadiness serves you well. It gives structure to your life, lets you plan, measure, and build. But beneath the comfort of this illusion lies mystery. Time is not the metronome you believe it to be. It is flexible, layered, emergent. As you rest, notice how your perception of this very moment shifts. Sometimes a single breath feels endless, filled with weight and depth. Other times, whole minutes pass without your awareness. Even now, as you listen, your brain is smoothing over gaps, stitching perceptions together, creating the sense of continuity. The present you feel is not a point but a construction, always slightly behind, always edited into coherence. You live not in the instant itself, but in the dream of the instant. Think again of the river. On its surface it flows smoothly forward and you drift along. But beneath there are eddies, currents, whirlpools, places where the water moves faster or slower, where the surface deceives. Time is like this, steady enough to trust but full of hidden bends. This awareness can soften the grip of urgency. If time is not absolute, if it is not fixed, then perhaps you need not cling so tightly to its measure. Perhaps you can rest more gently in its flow, trusting that the illusion of steadiness is enough to guide you. For when you lie down to sleep, you release time almost entirely. Dreams ignore clocks. Hours may pass without your notice. You wake and the world has shifted, though you did not feel the river move. In sleep you are reminded that time is never as rigid as it seems, and so time reveals itself not as a strict ruler, but as a flexible companion, one that bends with gravity, flows with memory, and fades with sleep. It is less a machine and more a story, one you tell with every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of awareness. The illusion of time does not mean it is false. It means it is richer, more layered, more mysterious than your first glance suggests. Like color, it is not merely out there, but also in here, woven into perception. Time is as much an experience as it is a dimension, and in this realization you may feel a deeper calm. If time bends and stretches, then perhaps you too can bend and stretch within it. Perhaps you can loosen the tightness of minutes and hours and rest in the wider rhythm, the slow unfolding of life, the gentle pace of the universe. Matter that is mostly empty. Touch a wall and it feels firm. Yet atoms are almost entirely space, their solidity an illusion of repulsion. The chair beneath you is a shimmering field of probability. Matter is a ghost wearing a mask of permanence. You reach out and place your hand on the surface of a table. It feels solid, unyielding, certain. You press harder and it resists you. In daily life, this firmness is one of the most trustworthy qualities of the world. The ground holds you, the walls protect you, the chair supports you. Everything seems built upon solidity. But beneath this certainty lies a great emptiness. Every object you touch, every surface you lean against, every piece of matter you know is mostly made of space. At the smallest scale, atoms, the building blocks of matter, are not tiny solid balls, but vast regions of emptiness. In the center of each atom lies a nucleus, a dense core made of protons and neutrons. Around it, electrons exist not as little planets orbiting neatly, but as clouds of probability, regions where they are most likely to be found. Between the nucleus and the electrons is space. empty space, stretching so wide that if the nucleus were the size of a grain of rice, the electron cloud would be hundreds of feet away. If matter was scaled to human size, you could walk freely through it as if through a cathedral of emptiness, with only the smallest dots of substance suspended in the void. The atoms that make up your hand and the atoms that make up the table are both almost entirely empty. And yet, when they meet, they resist each other, creating the sensation of solidity. This resistance is not because the atoms touch. In fact, atoms never truly touch at all. Instead, their electrons, governed by the rules of quantum mechanics, repel one another. When you press your hand against the table, it is this repulsion you feel. The surface pushes back because the fields around the atoms resist overlap. The firmness of matter is not a contact of substance, but an interaction of forces. What feels solid is a standoff, a balance of invisible energies. Imagine two magnets. When you try to press the same poles together, they push apart, as if an unseen cushion holds them back. The harder you press, the stronger the resistance. Electrons behave similarly, though in far more intricate and invisible ways. The solidity you depend upon is a field of repulsion, not the stacking of tiny solid blocks. This understanding transforms the way you see the world. That table so steady beneath your hand is a ghostly structure, particles suspended in emptiness, held together by forces. Your own body is the same, skin, muscle, bone, all composed of atoms and thus mostly space. You are a being of emptiness given form, solidity conjured by fields of resistance, and yet you never fall through the floor. The illusion is complete. Forces are reliable. Atoms bond, forming molecules which weave together into materials which build the tangible world. Though empty, matter behaves as solid, allowing you to walk, eat, rest, and live as though everything were dense and permanent. The emptiness is hidden, veiled by the trustworthiness of experience. Even the nucleus itself, the tiny heart of the atom, is not simple solidity. It is composed of protons and neutrons, which are themselves made of quarks, held together by gluons, particles that carry the strong nuclear force. These quarks and gluons flicker in and out of existence, fields of energy more than things. The closer you look, the more the idea of solid matter dissolves, and the electrons, they are stranger still. They do not orbit like planets in neat tracks. Instead, they exist as probabilities, clouds of potential locations. Until measured, they are not in one place but many, smeared across space. The shape of matter is not fixed but statistical, a blur of likelihood. What you call a chair, a table, a body, is a shimmering field of probabilities, condensed into apparent stability by the act of perception. This does not make the world less real. It makes it more wondrous. That emptiness gives rise to lightness, flexibility, and the structures of life. The repulsion of electrons creates the solidity that allows you to hold a cup, touch a hand, walk upon the earth. The apparent emptiness of atoms is what permits the vastness of the universe, the stars and galaxies to exist with distance between them. Emptiness is not absence but structure, not nothingness but the possibility of everything. And it reminds you gently of humility. The certainty you feel when you grip an object is a simplification, a kindness of perception. Beneath it is mystery, complexity, paradox. You never truly touch the world. You are held apart by fields, your reality shaped by invisible interactions. Even your body, the weight you feel, the density you carry, is mostly emptiness. If all the empty space within the atoms of your body were removed, compressing every nucleus together, you would shrink to a speck, smaller than a grain of dust, yet still containing all your mass. The entire human race, compressed in this way, would fit inside a sugar cube. Such is the scale of emptiness within you. And still here you are, breathing, moving, resting on a chair supported by the floor. The emptiness does not betray you. It forms you, sustains you, allows you to be. When you reflect on this, a strange softness may arise. The solidity of the world is not absolute. It is a cooperative illusion, a performance of forces and fields. You can rest upon it, but you can also wonder at it, realizing that everything you call real is more spacious, more ethereal than you imagined. And as you drift into sleep, you may feel your body differently. Less like a heavy solid form, more like a constellation of particles floating in space, bound by unseen forces, less like a block of matter, more like a luminous cloud shimmering in emptiness. The solidity fades into spaciousness, the certainty dissolves into wonder. The quantum mirage particles flicker as waves, collapsing when observed. Your reality depends on measurement, on awareness itself. Uncertainty hums at the heart of all things. The smallest truths reveal the greatest mysteries. You live in a world that feels solid and predictable. The sun rises, the ground supports you, water flows downhill, and cause follows effect. The order of things seems stable, dependable. Yet beneath this surface lies a domain where certainty dissolves, where the rules you trust unravel into paradox. This is the quantum world, the world of the very small, and it is here that reality begins to shimmer like a mirage. At the quantum scale, particles are not tiny marbles. They are not fixed, solid things moving through space in neat trajectories. Instead, they behave like waves, spread out, diffuse, overlapping. An electron, for example, is not in one place at once. It exists as a wave of probabilities, a cloud of possibility stretching across space. You cannot point to where it is until you look. Only when measured does it collapse into a single location. Before observation, it is everywhere it could be. This is not a metaphor, but an experiment, repeated countless times. In the famous double-slit experiment, light or electrons are sent through two narrow openings onto a screen. If no one watches, the particles behave like waves, interfering with each other, forming delicate patterns of light and dark. But when a detector is placed to see which slit each particle goes through, the interference disappears. The particles act like individual dots, choosing one path or the other. The very act of observation changes their behavior. It is as if the universe waits to decide until you look. What does this mean? Some say that particles are both waves and particles until measured. Others say that observation forces a choice, collapsing the possibilities into one outcome. Still others suggest that every possibility happens in parallel, in countless branching universes, and you only see one branch. The interpretations differ, but the mystery remains. Reality at its core does not behave like the solid world you trust. It flickers, uncertain, shimmering between possibilities. At the heart of quantum mechanics lies uncertainty. Heisenberg showed that you cannot know both the position and momentum of a particle exactly. The more you know about one, the less you can know about the other. This is not a flaw of measurement, but a principle of nature. Reality at its smallest level is not fixed but indeterminate. Particles do not have definite properties until they are observed. This uncertainty is not confined to laboratories. It underlies the stability of atoms, the flow of electricity, the chemistry of life. The reason electrons do not collapse into the nucleus is because of quantum rules. The reason stars shine, fusing atoms together, is because of quantum tunneling, where particles slip through barriers they should not cross. The solidity of your world, the warmth of your body, the light of the sun, all depend on the strange mirages of quantum mechanics. And yet, you cannot see this directly. To your senses, the world feels firm and consistent. You never watch electrons spread like waves or particles teleport across barriers. The quantum world is veiled from you, hidden beneath the scale of perception. But it is always there, humming beneath every moment, shaping the reality you experience. This reveals a deep paradox. The everyday world feels deterministic. A ball rolls because it is pushed, a clock ticks because its gears turn. But at the foundation, nature is probabilistic. Outcomes are not certain but weighted, possibilities waiting to be chosen. The universe is not a machine ticking forward, but a cloud of probabilities collapsing into events. Even stranger are the entanglements. Two particles once linked remain connected no matter how far apart they travel. Measure one, and the other responds instantly, as if distance does not matter. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, unsettled by the idea that information could move faster than light. Yet experiments confirm it again and again. The fabric of reality is woven with connections that transcend space, threads that bind the farthest corners together. Entanglement is not only a curiosity, it is the foundation of quantum technologies now being built, quantum computers that use superposition and entanglement to solve problems far beyond ordinary machines, quantum communication that may one day be unbreakable. The mirage of the quantum is becoming a tool even as its mystery deepens. The quantum mirage particles flicker as waves, collapsing when observed. Your reality depends on measurement, on awareness itself. Uncertainty hums at the heart of all things. The smallest truths reveal the greatest mysteries. You live in a world that feels solid and predictable. The sun rises, the ground supports you, water flows downhill, and cause follows effect. The order of things seems stable, dependable, yet beneath this surface lies a domain where certainty dissolves, where the rules you trust unravel into paradox. This is the quantum world, the world of the very small, and it is here that reality begins to shimmer like a mirage. At the quantum scale, particles are not tiny marbles. They are not fixed, solid things moving through space in neat trajectories. Instead, they behave like waves, spread out, diffuse, overlapping. An electron, for example, is not in one place at once. It exists as a wave of probabilities, a cloud of possibility stretching across space. You cannot point to where it is until you look. Only when measured does it collapse into a single location. Before observation, it is everywhere it could be. This is not a metaphor, but an experiment, repeated countless times. In the famous double-slit experiment, light or electrons are sent through two narrow openings onto a screen. If no one watches, the particles behave like waves, interfering with each other, forming delicate patterns of light and dark. But when a detector is placed to see which slit each particle goes through, the interference disappears. The particles act like individual dots, choosing one path or the other. The very act of observation changes their behavior. It is as if the universe waits to decide until you look. What does this mean? Some say that particles are both waves and particles until measured. Others say that observation forces a choice, collapsing the possibilities into one outcome. Still others suggest that every possibility happens in parallel, in countless branching universes, and you only see one branch. The interpretations differ, but the mystery remains. Reality at its core does not behave like the solid world you trust. It flickers, uncertain, shimmering between possibilities. At the heart of quantum mechanics lies uncertainty. Heisenberg showed that you cannot know both the position and momentum of a particle exactly. The more you know about one, the less you can know about the other. This is not a flaw of measurement, but a principle of nature. Reality at its smallest level is not fixed but indeterminate. Particles do not have definite properties until they are observed. This uncertainty is not confined to laboratories. It underlies the stability of atoms, the flow of electricity, the chemistry of life. The reason electrons do not collapse into the nucleus is because of quantum rules. The reason stars shine, fusing atoms together, is because of quantum tunneling, where particles slip through barriers they should not cross. The solidity of your world, the warmth of your body, the light of the sun, all depend on the strange mirages of quantum mechanics. And yet, you cannot see this directly. To your senses, the world feels firm and consistent. You never watch electrons spread like waves or particles teleport across barriers. The quantum world is veiled from you, hidden beneath the scale of perception. But it is always there, humming beneath every moment, shaping the reality you experience. This reveals a deep paradox. The everyday world feels deterministic. A ball rolls because it is pushed, a clock ticks because its gears turn. But at the foundation, nature is probabilistic. Outcomes are not certain but weighted, possibilities waiting to be chosen. The universe is not a machine ticking forward, but a cloud of probabilities collapsing into events. Even stranger are the entanglements. Two particles once linked remain connected no matter how far apart they travel. Measure one, and the other responds instantly, as if distance does not matter. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, unsettled by the idea that information could move faster than light. Yet experiments confirm it again and again. The fabric of reality is woven with connections that transcend space, threads that bind the farthest corners together. Entanglement is not only a curiosity, it is the foundation of quantum technologies now being built, quantum computers that use superposition and entanglement to solve problems far beyond ordinary machines, quantum communication that may one day be unbreakable. The mirage of the quantum is becoming a tool even as its mystery deepens. Gravity's trick on space and time. Gravity bends the stage you walk upon, space curves, time slows, and reality warps near the massive. You think you live in straight lines, but you float on hidden curves. The universe is a canvas stretched by unseen hands. You have always felt gravity as a pull. Drop a stone, and it falls. Step off a curb, and the ground rises to meet you. Gravity feels like an invisible rope tugging you toward the earth, holding oceans in place, anchoring the moon in its orbit. For centuries, people imagined it this way, a force reaching across empty space, binding everything together. But Einstein revealed a deeper truth. Gravity is not a pull. It is a bending. Imagine the universe as a vast fabric, a smooth expanse of space and time woven together. Upon this fabric, everything rests, stars, planets, moons, and you. When something heavy like the Earth sits upon it, the fabric curves. Space itself bends, and time bends with it. Other objects do not feel a force pulling them. They simply move along the curves of this bent fabric. The apple falls from the tree not because Earth tugs it downward, but because the space around the Earth is curved, guiding its path. This is the trick of gravity. It changes the stage on which all motion plays out. You can picture it with a sheet stretched tight, a ball placed at the center. The ball sinks into the sheet, and if you roll a smaller marble nearby, it spirals inward, not because the ball reaches out to grab it, but because the sheet itself slopes toward the center. This is how planets orbit the sun. They are not held by invisible ropes. They are following the curves carved into space-time by the sun's mass. Even light, which you might think untouchable, follows these curves. When light from a distant star passes near a galaxy, its path bends. Astronomers call this gravitational lensing, and it allows them to see galaxies otherwise hidden, their light warped around massive clusters. Gravity bends not only matter, but the very beams that allow you to see. Time, too, feels the weight of mass. Near something massive like a planet or a black hole, time slows. To someone far away, your clock runs differently. This is not imagination, but measurable reality. Astronauts on the International Space Station orbit just outside Earth's deepest pull. Their time moves slightly faster than yours on the ground. The difference is tiny, yet it must be accounted for in the satellites above you. Without corrections for relativity, your GPS would drift miles off course in a single day. The device in your pocket, guiding you through city streets, depends on Einstein's bending of time. Imagine standing near the event horizon of a black hole. To you, time would feel normal, second after second ticking steadily. But to an observer far away, your time would stretch, your motion slowing until you seemed frozen. Gravity bends not only where you walk, but how you live in each moment. This bending connects you to the cosmos. You are not floating in an empty box of space, but resting on a flexible stage, woven and stretched by mass. Every step you take is guided by invisible curves, every breath you take shaped by the bending of the universe. And this bending has consequences on the grandest scales. Galaxies cluster, stars orbit, planets circle, all because of the way mass sculpts space-time. Even the expansion of the universe itself is influenced by gravity's hand. Without it, There would be no orbits, no galaxies, no Earth to stand upon. The trick of gravity is not small. It is the architecture of the cosmos, yet in daily life you rarely feel it this way. You feel only the steadiness of your weight, the familiar tug downward. You do not sense the curvature beneath your feet, the slowing of time, the bending of light. The miracle of relativity is hidden in plain sight, veiled by your everyday trust in solidity. But once you glimpse it, the world changes. The ground is no longer flat but curved. Time is no longer uniform but fluid. Gravity is not a force pulling you down, but a shape you are already following. You are not bound to Earth by ropes. You are gliding along its slope, carried effortlessly on the fabric of the universe. This can bring a deep calm. To know that you are held not by invisible chains, but by the curves of reality itself. To feel that you are part of the great bending that holds galaxies together. It gives weight to your place in the cosmos. You belong to the same geometry that guides stars and light. As you rest, imagine yourself lying on this fabric, your body pressing gently into it, the earth beneath you curving the stage, your time flowing slightly different from those above you. You are woven into the bending, inseparable from it, a participant in the universe's trick. The self that isn't solid. You feel like a single unbroken you, yet neuroscience shows a chorus of processes, a collection of selves. Your identity is a story told in the moment, not a fixed truth. Even the I you feel is part of the illusion. When you close your eyes and take a slow breath, you may feel a simple certainty. I am here. The sense of self feels stable, a solid presence that has followed you since childhood. You may imagine that beneath all changes in your body, your thoughts, your emotions, there is a core you that has remained the same. This feeling is deep, comforting, and natural, but science whispers another possibility. The self you hold so dearly may not be solid. Your brain, complex and layered, is not one voice but many. Millions of processes run in parallel, each concerned with its own task. Some track the rhythm of your heartbeat, others scan the environment for danger, some recall memories, while others plan for the future. Neurons fire in patterns that generate feelings, thoughts, desires, yet no single command center exists. There is no throne in the brain where a master self sits. Instead, there is a chorus, a community of processes loosely coordinated, always shifting. Consider what happens when you make a decision. You might think, I chose this. But research shows that the brain often begins preparing for an action milliseconds before you become consciously aware of deciding. The readiness potential, a flicker of neural activity, precedes your sense of will. Your awareness does not initiate the act, it narrates it afterward, weaving the story that I decided. The self is not the captain steering the ship, but the storyteller explaining its course. This storytelling function is powerful. The brain constantly integrates signals from the body, the senses, the memory, and the environment, constructing a coherent narrative. I am walking down the street, I am hungry, I am happy. Without this narration, your experience would fragment into scattered events. The illusion of a continuous self provides coherence. It allows you to plan, to remember, to carry an identity from one day to the next. But beneath the narration, there is no single, solid self, only the ongoing act of selfing, renewed moment by moment. You can glimpse this in everyday experience. When you are angry, the world feels sharp and hostile. When you are joyful, the same world feels gentle and kind. In those moments, who is the you, the angry you, or the joyful you? Both feel real, yet they contradict. Your identity shifts with emotion, with circumstance, with context. Still, you weave them together into one story. This is me. Memory complicates this even further. Each time you recall your past, you reconstruct it. The child you once were exists now only as fragments pieced together by your present mind. The you of 10 years ago felt as real as the you of now, yet that person no longer exists in any solid way. And in 10 years more, the you reading these words will have dissolved into memory too, remembered differently than you are now. The self is less a statue and more a river, always flowing, never fixed. Even your body does not remain the same. Cells die and are replaced. Skin renews, bones reshape, neurons rewire. Within a decade, most of the atoms that compose you now will be gone, replaced by others. Yet you still say, "This is my body, this is me." What persists is not the material, but the story. The continuity you weave across the changes. Different parts of the brain can even hold different selves. In rare cases of split-brain patients, when the two hemispheres are separated, each side can act with its own will. One hand buttons a shirt while the other unbuttons it. Asked a question, one hemisphere answers differently from the other. Two centers of awareness coexist within the same skull. Which one is the true self? Both? Neither. The illusion of one solid identity begins to waver. Meditation traditions have long suggested this truth. Sit quietly and observe, and you may notice thoughts arising on their own, feelings flowing like weather, sensations shifting without control. The sense of I appears as another thought among thoughts, another sensation among sensations. In such moments, the self loosens. It is seen not as a solid entity, but as a process, as movement, as impermanent. Yet, though the self is illusory, it is not useless. Like the illusion of solidity in matter, or the illusion of color in light, the illusion of self serves a purpose. It organizes experience, fosters survival, supports memory and responsibility. Without it, you would be lost in fragments. The illusion creates meaning, just as a rainbow creates beauty from invisible light. But knowing it is an illusion can be freeing. If the self is not fixed, then you are not trapped in one identity. You can change, adapt, grow. The stories you tell about yourself are not unbreakable chains, but flexible narratives. You are not who you were yesterday, and you are not bound to be who you are today. The self is a story you can rewrite, a dream you can reshape. This recognition also softens the grip of ego. If the self is not solid, then perhaps it need not be defended so fiercely. You can hold your identity more gently, with less fear, less urgency. You can see yourself as a wave passing through time, connected to other waves, not a solitary block, but part of the flowing sea of life. And in sleep, the self dissolves even more. Dreams weave identities freely. You may become another person, another age, even another creature. The dream self shifts without resistance, reminding you again that the self is fluid, not fixed. When you wake, you return to your familiar story. But the dream lingers as a whisper of truth. You are never only one thing. Even in waking life, moments of awe, gazing at a starry sky, listening to music that stirs your heart, holding someone you love, can dissolve the boundaries of self. You feel less like a separate I and more like part of something vast. These are glimpses of what lies beneath the illusion, the interconnectedness that underlies all existence. So as you breathe now, feel the self not as a solid core, but as a gentle flow. Thoughts arise, feelings pass, sensations come and go. The you who experiences them is not a fixed anchor, but the very act of experiencing itself. You are not a statue carved in stone. You are a story unfolding, a dance of processes, a dream that renews itself moment by moment. The shared dream of society, money, nations, laws, all exist because minds agree. Society is a network of shared illusions, powerful yet fragile. Your life unfolds inside a web of collective stories. Reality is as much cultural as it is physical. When you step outside your door and walk down the street, you enter a world of agreements. The pavement beneath you, the buildings that rise above, the cars that pass, the shops and signs and signals, all of them carry meaning not only because of what they are, but because of what people agree they mean. A red light does not inherently command you to stop. A piece of paper does not inherently carry value. A line on a map does not inherently separate one land from another, and yet, through shared imagination, they do. This is the dream of society, a web of stories created and believed together, so deeply woven that they feel as real as stone and sky. Take money, for instance, a coin, a bill, a number on a screen. None of these hold value in themselves. They are paper, metal, digital symbols. Their power comes from collective belief. You and I and millions of others agree to treat them as valuable, and so they become the medium through which we exchange food, shelter, effort, and time. Without agreement, they are only objects. With agreement, they become the lifeblood of economies. Nations are similar. A border is not a physical wall across the land. It is a line drawn on maps, a set of agreements enforced by laws and armies, and held alive by memory and identity. A passport is a booklet of paper, but it carries with it the weight of belonging, rights, and restrictions. People live and die for nations, and yet nations exist only in the realm of shared imagination. Laws, too, are agreements, words written on paper, enforced by systems, and internalized by culture. They shape your behavior not because of physical force in every moment, but because you and others believe they must be followed. If everyone stopped believing at once, the laws would dissolve like mist. This does not make society unreal. Illusions, when shared, have great power. They coordinate billions of lives, create stability, shape history. The fact that they are imagined does not make them weak. On the contrary, they may be stronger than the physical. A storm can knock down buildings, but a story can move nations. Think of human rights. They are not written in the stars or carved into the fabric of the universe. They exist because enough people believe in them, protect them, pass them forward. Their reality rests not in atoms but in agreement, and yet they shape lives more profoundly than the laws of physics. This shared dreaming is the foundation of culture. Language itself is an agreement, a set of sounds given meaning by use. The word tree means tree only because we agree it does. Change the language and the sound shifts, but the meaning remains because the agreement remains. Without this web of shared signs, communication would collapse. The fragility of these dreams is also clear. Currencies can lose value overnight if belief falters. Governments can fall when enough people withdraw their trust. Social norms can shift in a generation, transforming what is seen as natural or acceptable. What feels permanent in one era can dissolve in the next, replaced by new agreements. And yet these agreements are what give shape to your daily life. You wake and go to work, exchanging your time and effort for money, trusting that the symbols will later provide food and shelter. You obey traffic laws, trusting others to do the same so that roads remain safe. You pay taxes, vote in elections, follow rituals of family or community, all because of collective stories. Without them, life would collapse into chaos. This dream is not only external, it is woven into your sense of self. You see yourself as a citizen, a member of a family, a participant in traditions. These roles are not written in your biology, but in your culture. They are narratives given to you, and ones you carry forward. Consider how different these roles are across the world. What is polite in one culture may be rude in another. What is sacred in one society may be ordinary in another. These differences show again that much of reality is cultural, not physical. You live not only in the laws of physics, but in the laws of imagination. And yet, within this recognition lies wonder. The fact that humans can weave such dreams and sustain them across generations is a miracle of cooperation. No other species creates nations, economies, or religions. Animals cooperate, yes, but humans imagine. You imagine futures, symbols, stories that extend far beyond the individual. This capacity for shared imagination is what allows billions of strangers to live together in vast societies, building cities, writing histories, and exploring the stars. At times, the dream can become a trap. When people cling too tightly to certain stories about race, about power, about identity, the shared dream can fracture into conflict. The same force that unites can also divide, but even this shows the strength of belief. The dream is real enough to fight for, to die for, to live within. And so, as you walk through your day, you are walking through layers of reality. The ground beneath your feet is physical, atoms and fields holding you up. But the meaning of that ground, whether it is yours or someone else's, whether it is sacred or mundane, is woven by culture. You live in both worlds at once, the physical and the imagined, the matter and the dream. As night falls and you prepare for sleep, you can reflect on the stories you have inherited. Stories of family, nation, language, money, law, stories that feel invisible because they surround you completely. You did not choose most of them, yet you live within them every moment. To see them as stories is not to dismiss them, but to recognize their power, their fragility, their beauty. And perhaps knowing this, you can hold them more gently. You can see that what feels fixed may change, that what feels absolute may dissolve, that what feels universal may be only cultural. You can live within the dream while also remembering it is a dream, shared by many, but not eternal. The cosmic illusion of scale. Your body feels vast compared to an ant, tiny beside a mountain, yet both extremes dissolve when compared to galaxies or quarks. Size is relative, meaning exists only in perspective. The cosmos is endless mirrors of scale. When you look at your hand, it feels like a certain size, large enough to hold a cup, small enough to fit inside a pocket. You know where you fit, roughly, in the world, bigger than some things, smaller than others. You tower over ants, but you bow before mountains. This sense of scale feels natural, even obvious, and yet scale itself is not absolute. What feels big or small depends entirely on where you stand. The universe is a hall of mirrors, each reflection showing a different perspective. Begin with the very small. Imagine shrinking down past the level of skin and blood, past cells and nuclei, until you reach the scale of atoms. Each atom, the building block of everything you see, is a cathedral of emptiness, its nucleus a speck, its electrons a cloud of probability. From this vantage, your hand is not solid at all, but a vast space dotted with tiny points of energy. To an electron, your body is almost immeasurably large, an expanse of emptiness stretching in all directions. Now imagine shrinking further, past atoms to quarks, the particles within protons and neutrons. Here, size becomes difficult to grasp. A quark is not a marble, but a flicker of energy, its location more a probability than a place. At this scale, words like big and small lose meaning. Distances collapse into uncertainty, and the fabric of matter dissolves into fields and vibrations. From here, your entire body, once so significant, is beyond vastness, beyond comprehension, a cosmic continent compared to the tiniest unit. But now, move outward. Stand once again at your human size, then rise higher. Look down upon a city. Buildings cluster like toys, cars flow like beads of light, people vanish into invisibility. A few kilometers above the ground, everything familiar begins to look small. Higher still, from the vantage of an orbiting satellite, continents stretch like puzzle pieces across a blue ocean. Mountains flatten, rivers curve, clouds veil the surface in shifting swirls. Step back to the scale of the Earth itself. This planet, which holds your every memory, is but a pale sphere suspended in darkness. It feels immense when you walk upon it, yet from space it is fragile, delicate, a marble floating in silence. Compare it to Jupiter, a giant so vast that more than 1,000 Earths could fit inside, and your world shrinks again. Compare Jupiter to the Sun, which could swallow it 1,000 times more, and even the gas giant fades into insignificance. The Sun, though it feels infinite, is just one star among hundreds of billions in the Milky Way. Step back further, and our galaxy becomes a spiral of light, a river of stars stretching across space. From this distance, the Sun is invisible, Earth unthinkably small. And yet even the Milky Way is only one galaxy among billions, a single swirl in a cosmic ocean. Some galaxies are dwarfs, small and dim. Others are giants, vast and blazing, containing trillions of suns. Beyond them, the universe stretches outward, perhaps endlessly, each scale dwarfing the one before it. Where then do you belong? You are vast compared to a bacterium, tiny compared to a star. Both truths are real, yet neither is final. Scale is not an absolute ladder, but a relative measure, shifting with perspective. What is big to one observer is small to another. You live in the middle of mirrors, each reflecting a different proportion of the whole. This relativity of size is not only philosophical, but practical. Ants carry loads many times their body weight. To them, a crumb is a feast, a puddle a sea, a patch of grass a forest. Whales swim across oceans, their hearts weighing as much as cars, their voices carrying for miles. A blue whale's scale dwarfs yours, yet it too is small compared to mountains, compared to planets. Each creature experiences the world according to its own size, its own perspective. Even time feels different depending on scale. A mayfly lives for only a day, experiencing its life as full, complete, entire. A tortoise lives for centuries, its life unfolding slowly, each year a small portion of its span. Galaxies evolve over billions of years, stars burning for eons before fading. To you, a human lifetime feels long and significant, yet to the stars it is a blink. Perspective changes meaning. This awareness can bring humility. The problems that loom so large in your mind, an argument, a deadline, a mistake, are invisible on the scale of planets and galaxies. The worries that feel unbearable shrink when you remember your place in the vastness. But this awareness can also bring wonder. To think that you, a creature so small in cosmic terms, can contemplate galaxies, can imagine quarks, can stretch your mind across the scales of existence. This is astonishing. The universe is immense, yet within you is the capacity to hold it in thought. Scale, then, is not only an illusion, but also a gift. It allows you to shift perspective, to see the same reality in different lights. To a child, a playground feels endless. To an adult, it feels small. To an astronaut, the Earth itself is a playground floating in darkness. Each view is true, each view partial. Together they form a mosaic of perspectives. In art, this shifting of scale is used to evoke emotion. A painter might depict a lone figure dwarfed by mountains to capture awe and insignificance. A poet might describe a grain of sand as a universe to evoke wonder in the small. Science and art both reveal that meaning is not fixed in size, but created in the relationship between scales. Even within your body, scale plays tricks. Neurons are large compared to molecules, but small compared to tissues. Organs are massive compared to cells, yet tiny compared to the body as a whole. Your sense of self emerges not at the smallest scale, where particles flicker, nor at the largest, where galaxies drift, but in the middle ground, where matter organizes into brains, and brains organize into thought. The self is a phenomenon of scale, arising only at a certain level of complexity. This shows you that reality is layered. Each layer has its own truths, its own rules, its own meaning. The quantum world is strange and uncertain. The human world feels stable. The cosmic world is vast and silent. None cancel the others. They coexist, stacked like Russian dolls, each contained within the next. And so scale dissolves as an absolute. There is no ultimate big or small. There is only relation, context, comparison. To an atom you are a giant. To a galaxy you are less than dust. Both are true, and neither defines you fully. You are not fixed in one place on the ladder of size, but floating in a web of perspectives. This realization can bring a certain peace. If size is relative, then so are your concerns, your triumphs, your struggles. They matter at the human scale, which is where you live, but they need not crush you. You can step back, shift perspective, and see them as smaller, softer, lighter. You can also step in, magnify the details, and find wonder in the smallest patterns. Both views are available, both true. As you prepare for rest, imagine yourself drifting across these scales. First, become smaller, shrinking into cells, into molecules, into atoms, into quarks, until the very idea of size dissolves. Then expand outward, past cities, past Earth, past the sun and stars, until galaxies swirl beneath you like dust motes in sunlight. Feel yourself stretch across the mirrors of scale, dissolving the illusion of size, resting in the vastness and the minuteness at once. You are not confined to one scale. You belong to them all. Death, consciousness, and the final veil. You wonder what remains when awareness fades. Science measures brainwaves but cannot capture experience itself. Consciousness may be the deepest illusion or the only truth. To sleep is to practice this letting go. There is a silence you carry within you, a question you rarely touch directly. What happens when awareness ends? You know that sleep comes each night, and in its deepest stages, your sense of self disappears. Yet you wake again, and continuity resumes. Death, however, feels different. It feels like the final veil, the place where the self dissolves completely. Science approaches this mystery cautiously. It can measure the rhythms of the brain, electrical waves rising and falling, networks firing in patterns. It can trace how consciousness dims under anesthesia, how memories dissolve in dementia, how awareness flickers in coma. But these measurements, though precise, never cross into experience itself. They describe the mechanism but not the feeling. The question remains, what is it like for awareness to vanish? You cannot know directly because when awareness ceases, there is no you to record it. And yet you sense the edges in sleep. In the drifting moments before deep rest, you feel yourself letting go. The chatter of thought fades, the grip of identity loosens, and silence spreads. For hours you vanish into dreamless dark. In that space there is no memory, no self, no awareness. Then morning comes, and the lights of consciousness flicker on again. Death may not be so different, an entry into a silence without return. But the mystery deepens when you ask, what is consciousness at all? Where does the flicker of awareness come from? The brain is a physical organ, billions of neurons exchanging signals, chemicals passing across synapses. From this somehow arises the vivid inner world of thought, emotion, color, and self. This leap from matter to experience is called the hard problem of consciousness. It is the greatest gap in science's map of reality. Some propose that consciousness is an illusion, a byproduct of the brain's complexity. Like a rainbow arising from raindrops and light, it is beautiful, but not fundamental. Others suggest the opposite, that consciousness is the ground of reality itself, more basic than matter, woven into the universe like space and time. Between these poles lie countless theories, but no agreement. You live within awareness every moment, yet you do not know what it is. This uncertainty touches death directly. If consciousness is only a function of the brain, then when the brain ceases, awareness ends completely. If consciousness is deeper, perhaps fundamental, then perhaps it does not vanish, but shifts, dissolves into a wider field. The truth remains veiled, unreachable from within life. What you can see clearly is the role death plays in shaping life. Every breath you take is precious precisely because it is limited. Every moment carries meaning because it will not return. The awareness of mortality sharpens love, deepens gratitude, compels you to create. The final veil is also the frame around life, giving it urgency, beauty, and depth. Different cultures have told different stories of what lies beyond. Some imagine heavens and afterlives, places where the self continues. Others speak of reincarnation, the self reborn into new forms. Still others describe dissolution, the self fading into the great silence. Whether these stories are true or not, they reveal something universal. The human need to imagine continuity, to soften the sharp edge of the unknown. But perhaps the unknown is itself the point. Death may be the final reminder that you are never in control, that the self you cling to is always temporary, that existence itself is fragile. To face this can bring fear, yes, but also freedom. For if the self is not solid, if it is destined to dissolve, then perhaps you can hold it more lightly even now. Notice how similar sleep and death appear. Each night you practice letting go, surrendering the self to silence. Each morning you return, reborn into awareness. The rhythm repeats, a small rehearsal of the greater letting go. When you drift into dreams, you do not resist. You surrender gently, trusting the rhythm. Perhaps death is a final surrender of the same kind, a return into silence you have known countless times before. This perspective does not erase grief. To lose someone you love is to feel a tearing, an absence that no philosophy can mend. And yet, even here, there is softness. The love you felt does not vanish. The memories remain. In some way, the ones who leave continue to live within you, woven into the fabric of your mind. Their bodies may be gone, but their imprint remains, a resonance in your being. And so death becomes not only an ending, but a transformation. Matter returns to matter, atoms scattering into earth and air, energy returns to energy, heat dispersing into the cosmos. The awareness that was once shaped into you dissolves back into the mystery from which it arose. Nothing is lost, only changed. This realization can bring a kind of peace. To know that you are not separate but continuous with the universe, to know that your being is woven of the same matter and energy as stars and oceans, is to see death not as exile, but as return. You come from the cosmos, and to the cosmos you go. As you lie in stillness now, feel the edges of awareness soften. The eye you cling to loosens, drifting into the wider field of breath and silence. You cannot know what lies beyond the final veil, but you can rest in the mystery. You can trust that, just as you return from sleep, so too will you dissolve into what the universe holds next. Resting in the mystery. You lie within a world that is solid yet fragile, real yet dreamlike. The universe does not explain itself, but invites you to wonder. Every breath you take is part of a vast, shimmering illusion, and within that illusion you find peace enough to sleep. At the end of this long journey, you find yourself returning to a simple truth. Reality is both certain and uncertain, both solid and dreamlike. You have looked through the veils of perception, explored the bending of time, the emptiness of matter, the flickering of particles, the illusions of self and society. And yet, after all this wandering, you are left not with clear answers, but with a deeper mystery. The mystery is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a space to rest within. The world feels solid beneath your feet, and at the same time, you know it is made of emptiness. The seconds tick by on your clock, steady and reliable, and yet you know time bends and stretches. You feel yourself as a single continuous eye, and yet you know this self is a story, shifting moment by moment. Each truth dissolves into another, each certainty melts into wonder. This might feel unsettling at first. To live without fixed ground, without final answers, seems like drifting on water without shore. But if you listen more deeply, you may realize that drifting itself can be peaceful. You do not need the shore to rest. You can rest upon the water, floating in its rhythm, trusting its embrace. The mystery of reality is like this. It carries you. Whether you understand it fully or not, you do not need to solve the cosmos to belong within it. You already do. Think of the stars above you. Each night they shine, scattered across the sky. They look eternal, fixed in place, yet they are burning, moving, changing. Some of the light you see tonight left its star millions of years ago. Those stars may no longer exist, yet their light arrives now, painting the night with echoes of the past. To look up is to gaze into time as well as space, into memory as well as presence. The stars remind you that what you see is never the full truth, and yet what you see is still beautiful. Think too of your breath. Air flows into you, invisible and weightless. You rarely notice it, yet it sustains you every moment. Each breath carries atoms once breathed by others, atoms forged in ancient stars, atoms that will someday drift on when you are gone. You are not separate from the world, but continuous with it, part of its cycles, part of its mystery. This awareness can soften your grip. You need not hold so tightly to your identity, your achievements, your worries. You are already part of something larger, something endless. The story of your life matters, yes, but it is also woven into the larger story of the cosmos. You are both small and vast, fleeting and eternal, and in this duality you may find rest. The mind often seeks answers, wanting to know, to fix, to grasp. But at some point knowing must give way to wonder. The universe is not a riddle to be solved once and for all. It is a poem, an unfolding, a mystery that deepens the more you listen. To live within it is not to master it, but to join it, to participate in its flow, to let yourself be carried. Even science, precise and rigorous, points you toward this mystery. Its discoveries peel back layers of illusion, revealing that matter is empty, that time is flexible, that reality at its core flickers with uncertainty. Yet even as it explains, it opens more questions. Every answer reveals deeper layers. The farther you go, the wider the mystery becomes. And so, perhaps the truest response is not to conquer, but to rest. To lie back and feel the mystery not as a problem, but as a companion. To let it cradle you as the night cradles the stars, as the breath cradles your body, as sleep cradles your mind. Notice in this moment how your awareness softens, the edges of thought blur, the grip of certainty loosens. You do not need to know everything to feel safe. You do not need to explain everything to feel whole. You are part of the unfolding, and that is enough. Resting in the mystery means allowing yourself to be held by what you cannot see. It means trusting that the ground will carry you even if it is mostly space. It means trusting that time will flow even if it bends. It means trusting that self and society will weave themselves even if they are stories. It means trusting that death itself is not exile, but transformation. To rest in the mystery is to find peace not in answers, but in presence. And so, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself lying in the great fabric of the cosmos. Space curves gently beneath you, time flows softly around you, matter flickers quietly within you. You are both dream and dreamer, both illusion and awareness, both question and silence. The universe does not need you to solve it. It needs only that you rest within it. Here in this resting you find what you were seeking all along, peace enough to sleep.